All right, the U.S. Was millions of shots away from meeting President Biden's goal of having 70% of American adults vaccinated with at least one dose of the COVID vaccine by July the 4th. So yesterday, the Biden administration announced the launch of targeted community by community, door-to-door outreach to get the remaining Americans vaccinated. You might recall, those of you who've been around a little longer, Ronald Reagan, he made a famous quip one time. He said this, he said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Well, not surprisingly, conservatives are opposed to the idea. Joining me to talk about this and more is Congressman Ralph Norman. He is a member of the House Oversight and Reform Committee and the Homeland Security Committee. He represents the 5th Congressional District of South Carolina. Congressman Norman, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be with you, Tony.
I'm not too excited about having a bureaucrat knocking at my door asking me if I've had the COVID-19 shot and I want to get one.
Tony, the truth of the matter, it's none of the government's business to knock on your door and ask you if you've had the vaccine or not. Now, I don't think they're physicians. I don't think they are parents of the household they're going to. I don't think they're caretakers. And my question is very simple. Why are they setting the arbitrary rate of 70% and then going to people's homes in America why aren't they going to the cities that have been burned and looted? Why aren't they going on the border? And while the 1.5 million to 2 million that they're letting in, why aren't they testing them? Why aren't they checking them for the new strain of the virus? Why aren't they going to the businesses to ask how we can help you on inflation? The bottom line is this administration is doing everything it can to mask the real problems in this country. I don't think they understand it. I don't think they care. And this is just another example of the overreach of the federal government. Last time I checked, Tony, the states form the federal government, not vice versa with the federal government forming the states.
Good point, and something the federal government needs to be reminded of from time to time. The left is now politicizing this issue of the COVID-19 vaccine or shot, not that they haven't before, but being more blatant about it, where there appears to be targeting of Republican males who are in the highest category of those not getting the vaccine. They're now making it Trump supporters are those that have not gotten vaccines. Those living in the South have a lower rate of vaccination. Is politics driving this?
Well, the hatred of Donald Trump is driving this. Their derangement with letting government control everything, their derangement on trying to stay in power. And it's time for we the people to fight back. You know, I was one of the 4 that took the mask off, or maybe 6 in Congress. You know, Ms. Pelosi put a fine on any that didn't wear it in the chambers. When as Speaker, she admitted a congresswoman who had COVID. She put them in the balcony, but we took it off. We took the fine. We didn't really care what they were going to do. It's just an overreach of government. And yes, it's politics. It's a fear tactic that they're continuing to try to use when it's not going to work. And it's time for all of us, elected officials and just we the people as citizens, to say, no, we're not doing this. When private businesses should decide what they want to do and if it makes sense for them their customers to wear a mask. And it simply is shocking that he's been in office, 167 days now? And this is his priorities? It's out of control.
Congressman Norman, speaking of masks, you and some of your colleagues, I think Congressman Crenshaw is kind of leading this effort to say enough of the mask on public transportation. We've seen a rise in confrontations with passengers and airline personnel because, quite frankly, people are tired of this. It goes back to what you said. This is about fear. It's a fear tactic to try to scare people so that they can be easily led. Do you see the end of this mask mandate coming?
No, I do not. In fact, I think it'll get worse. I think they'll try to mandate this along with other things to keep the narrative going that the government is our keeper. They're going to mandate that this is important. And who's to say that they won't increase it to 100%? There are a lot of people who don't believe in a vaccine. That's called personal freedom. That's called their right to choose to get a vaccine versus not get a vaccine. And it's so hypocritical, Tony. I mean, the millions that are coming across the border with who knows what they've got. And to not take steps with that, and to even waste a press conference on saying this. I'm fighting it with Dan Crenshaw with this bill to repeal it. I think they're trying to extend it through September 13th. And it makes no sense. And it's not the role of the federal government to do this.
At what point is it going to take the election? Is that when we're going to see a turn? The Democrats are so wed to these fear tactics that we're not going to see any of these measures that restore the rights and freedoms of Americans in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Is that what it's going to take, an election?
Well, obviously, we've got to take the gavel away from Ms. Pelosi. As Speaker, she has tremendous power. As your viewers probably know, she sets the committee, she sets the agenda, she selects the people that are to testify, and it's got the power of the Speaker is immense. So that's one part of it. But the other part is for everyday politicians to advocate for everyday Americans to get involved on the local school level, to the city councils, to the county councils, and in state legislatures. Get involved with these issues. Voice your opinion. You always hear from the left. They always are the loudest. And I don't think they have the numbers. They're just loud. And we've got to get our voice back in America. And we've got to have freedom of speech, because we're being silenced with big tech and social media, and we got to fight back. We cannot continue just to remain quiet, because look where it's gotten us. And I will tell you, Tony, politicians are not going to get the job done. It's got to be we the people demanding it.
Congressman Norman, I think you're absolutely right. I think there has been clearly an effort, a combined effort, not just of big tech, but of the left, of labeling. If you're against something, they label you as racist, as homophobic, as all these different titles they throw out there, basically to cause Americans to retreat into silence. And that's the last thing we can do. We have to stand in the face of their opposition, their intolerance, and demand that we have a right to speak. We have a right to shape the future of this country, and we're not going to go away silent.
We've got to ring the bells for freedom, and we've got to do it at every level, from the pulpit to every level of government. We've got to encourage our elected officials to do so, and we need to take action on those who don't. And that's why it's so important to get involved. And look where politicians have gotten us so far. It's time for action at every level, and it's time for groups to get together and let our views be known, and back it up with going to work to replace those who want to rule every facet of our lives. And the only way we do that is for we the people to get involved. And I think we are. I see a reawakening in America. And Americans, as you mentioned, are scared. They're scared because of the violence that's taking place. They're scared because of who's coming across the border, who are completely unknown, who's getting in. They're scared of the drug situation. I mean, you name it, we can go down the list. And for this administration to go door to door on vaccinations is astounding to me, and it really is an insult to the taxpayers.
Yeah, and it is the totally opposite priorities that they should be pursuing at this time. Congressman Ralph Norman, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.